Hi friends, welcome to IISN YouTube channel. Now we are going to see the topics on static keyword. Okay. So before I get into the session, if you like this video, please share this video with your friends and please click the subscribe button and bell button. Okay, so now we are going to move to the session. First we are going to see what is static keyword. Okay, so if you declare any variable or method as a static, okay, so then it is belongs to the classes. Okay, so the static keyword initially used to make the memory more efficiently. Okay, so we want to use the memory more efficiently means then we go with a static keyword. Okay, so if you declare any variable as a static, okay, so that is not belongs to the object. Okay, so whenever we are going to create an object, okay, so all the variables and method, it is going to take the memory space, right? Okay, so but if you declare any variable as a static, that it is not going to be allocate separate memory spaces in while you are going to create an object. Okay, so here you see previously we are using a perm gen. Okay, so that is permanent generation. Okay, so but nowadays we are using meta space for static variable storage purpose. Okay, so first see what is the static keyword. Static keyword is used for memory management. Okay, so then second point is static means data is not tied up to the any particular object. Okay, so because it is instant of a classes. Okay, so whenever new object is going to be get created, okay, so it is not going to take a separate memory spaces. I already told that it is previously it is using a permanent generations, that is perm gen memory spaces, but the problems with the perm gen is it is a fixed and fixed maximum size. Okay, but nowadays after Java 8, okay, so the perm gen becomes a meta space. Okay, so it is initialized when the class is loaded. Okay, so the static variable is initialized only when the class is first loaded into the JVM. Okay, so generally there is a three types of static keyword. One is static variable, another one is static block, another one is static method. Okay, so we are going to see what is static variable. Okay, here you see the static variable. If you are going to declare any variable as a static, we already discussed, right? Okay, the static variable is belongs to the classes. Okay, so it is not belongs to the object. Okay, so only a single copy of static variable is created and shared among all the instance of the classes. Okay, so that is instance means what? Object of the particular classes. Okay, because it is a class level variable, memory allocations of such variables happen only once. Okay, so when the class is loaded into the memory. Okay, so this is the syntax of static variable declarations. First we have to give the static. Okay, so then that should be followed by data type and that should be followed by variable name. Okay, so this is the general syntax of static variable. Okay, so now we are going to see the simple implementations of what is static variable. I am going to create a separate memory packages. Static PGM program. Okay, so and I am going to create class which name it as static variable PGM. Okay, I am going to declare one variable, two variable. Okay, so one is non-static variable, that is non-static. Okay, non-static variable equal to, initially I am not going to initialize the variable. Then what is the syntax of static variable declaration? Okay, so static data type variable name. Okay, so first we are going to give the static as a keyword, that should be variable data type, and that should be followed by variable name, static variable. Okay, so here you see I am going to create one method which is going to increment the variable values. Okay, so initially we are going to set the value of this both the variable as 0. Okay, so and I am going to declare one method, and I am going to define one method, public void static increment. Okay, so INC. So while we are going to call this method, it is just going to increment the value count by 1, that is plus plus, and then static variable also I am going to increment by 1 plus plus. Okay, so whenever we are going to call this method, it is just going to increment the values. Okay, so then I am going to print the values of both. This out. Okay, static variable value, that is, what is the variable name for the static variable is static variable itself, right? Okay, then I am going to print the values of non-static variable. That is non-static variable. Okay, so then, and I am going to create a main method. In this main method, I am going to create an object of this particular classes, and I am going to access both the method. Okay, svp equal to new static variable pgm. Okay, so through svp we are going to call inc method, which is going to increment both the variables. Okay, so after incrementing, I am going to check the values of both the static and non-static variable. Print data. Okay, so now we are going to increment both the variables, static and non-static variables. Okay, so again I am going to call once again svp dot inc, then I am going to call svp dot print data. Okay, so here you see now I am going to create one more object. Okay, and I am going to create one more object. The object name is svp1. Okay, so svp1 dot inc, then svp1 dot print data. Okay, so let's run this program, and then I am going to explain this concept in clear manner. Okay, so here you see we got the output like this. Okay, so let's see how the program is get executed. Okay, so here you see this is the program, right? Okay, so here you see I am going to explain it in whiteboard. Okay, so initially the execution is going to start from the main method. Okay, so from here we are going to create object svp. Okay, so the object is just going to hold the copy of the variable, right? Okay, so it is having the both the variables. One is non-static, another one is static variable, but the static variable, it is not going to create a memory spaces while we are going to create an object. It is going to be create as, it is going to hold it on separate memory spaces, that is meta space. Okay, so that is what the variable, it is a static variable. The variable name itself is called static variable. Okay, so initially we initialize the values of this to 0, right? Okay, so now you see this value here, you see non-static variable, we are having one more variable on the class which is called non-static variable, the name itself. Okay, so here also we initialize to 0. Okay, so again we are going to create one more object. Okay, so that is svp1, it is going to hold the copy of the class variable. Okay, so that is static non-static variable. Okay, so now I am going to initialize the values equal to 0. Okay, okay. Now here you see we are going to call svp.inc. It will be going to find where the inc method is present. Here you see inc method is present here. Okay, so what we are doing? So we are just incrementing the variable non-static variable by 1. Okay, so here you see what is the previous value of this one? It is 0, right? Okay, so we are just going to increment the value by 1. Okay, so it is going to be 1 now. Okay, so on the next statement is, it is just going to increment the static variable. The static variable is itself is a static variable, so that here you see the values is going to be incremented by 1. Okay, so then we are going to print the information. Okay, so what is the first printing statement? It is just going to print the values of both the variables. Here you see both the variables is holding 1 1, so that we are getting the output 1 1 likewise. Then after again we are going to call svp.inc. Okay, so svp.inc means this one. Okay, so svp.inc, this calling from this svp object. Okay, we are going to call svp.inc, this method is get called. Okay, so here you see we are going to call non-static variable. Okay, so that value will be going to be incremented by 1. Here you see the non-static variable, it's 1, previously it is going to be 2 now. Okay, so then after that we are going to increment the static variable, that is static variable itself, that is we are going to increment the values by 1. Okay, so now after that we are going to print the values. Okay, so then next statement, it is just going to print both the values of static variable and non-static variable. Okay, non-static variable it is holding the values of 2 and static variables also holding the values of 2, so that we are getting the output like this. But here you see the next statement we are going to call from which object? svp1.inc. Okay, so svp1.inc. Okay, so call is from svp1. Okay, so it will be going to call from svp1, it will be going to call the inc method. Okay, so what we are doing on here, we are going to increment the non-static variable by 1. Okay, so now you see the call is from which object? svp1. Okay, so that it will be going to increment the values which is present in the svp object by 1. Okay, so now the non-static variable, that is a call under svp1 object. Okay, so it is going to increment by 1. Okay, so again we are going to increment the static variable. Okay, so this variable is a static, right? Okay, so this variable we are going to increment by 1. Okay, so here you see the static variable, it is not going to be created separate memory spaces. Whenever the new object, this two object is get created, it will be going to hold it on the separate memory spaces. Okay, so that the values will be going to incremented by the same locations. Okay, so that previously it is 2, it will be going to incremented by 1. Okay, so then after we are going to call svp1.print data. Okay, so then here you see we are going to print the information. In this print data, we are first printing the static variable. What is a static variable? Currently we are having 3, right? Okay, so here you see it is holding the values of 3. Then it will be going to print the values of non-static variable. What the non-static variable we are having? Non-static variable we are having the is 1, right? Okay, so the call is from svp1, there it is 1, so that will be going to print it 1. Okay, so hope you understand what is a static variable. Okay, so if you are having any doubts on this, please put your message on the comment section. I can try to clear your doubts. Okay, now we are going to move the next topic in the static variable, which is called static method. Okay, so the static means I already told that it is belongs to the classes, right? Okay, so if you declare any method as a static, okay, so it is belongs to the classes. Okay, so it is belongs to the classes. You can able to access the static method, okay, by using the class name, because it is belongs to the classes, right? Okay, so the static method access only the static variables. Okay, so the first thing, the static method doesn't accept the non-static variable, it accepts only the static variable. Okay, so that is the another one. Okay, so it is it can be accessed only by the class name. Okay, so here you see what is the syntax of the static method: static, data type and method name. Okay, so this is the syntax of static method. Okay, so now we are going to see the simple implementations of how to implement the static method on Java. Okay, so now I am going to create class name which is called static method. Okay, so here you say I am going to declare one variable int x, another one is int y. Okay, so this both are non-static variable. To make it this one as a static, I am going to give it this variable as a static variable by declaring the giving the static keyword in front of the data type. Okay, so now I am going to implement the same concept void inc. We are going to increment x value by 1, okay, and y value by 1. Okay, so in the static method, I am going to create a static method. What is the syntax? Okay, so static data type, that is return type method name. Okay, so here you see static. Okay, so return type is void. I don't want this method to return any values, so that I am going to give it as a void itself. Okay, so then I am going to create the call the method name as print static variable. This out. Okay, so in this I am going to print the values of static variable. Okay, value present on x static variable plus x. Okay, so now you see I already told that static method accept only the static variable. Okay, so here you see we are given the x variable. Okay, so x variable is non-static, so that it is not accepted the x value inside the static method. Here you see cannot make the static reference to the non-static field. Okay, so here you see this method is a static method, it is not going to access the static non-static variable. Okay, so that I am going to access a static variable, that is y. Okay, so here you see y is a static variable. Okay, so now I am going to print void print data. Okay, sys out. Okay, so values present, just I am going to copy this one, values present on x axis. Okay, so main method. Okay, and I am going to sm equal to new static method. Okay, so here you see we are having static method and non-static method. If it is a static method, we can able to call it directly, while we are going to call it on the same classes, so that I am going to call it directly without accessing any object. Okay, so but this is a non-static method. If you try to access it like this, it will be going to throw an error. Okay, so it has to be accessed only through the object, so that I am going to access it through object name, that is sm dot print data. Okay, so now you see we have to call inc method. It is also a non-static method, so that we have to call it only through the object name sm dot inc. Right. Okay, so we created three methods, one static method, another two is non-static method, and we are having two variables, one is static variable, another one is static variable, another one is non-static variable. Okay, so here you see I am going to create one more object, that is sm1. Okay, I am going to use the same thing. Okay, so but to differentiate this, I am going to use sysout. Okay, new object call. Okay, so better we have to give the statement on the second, so that the increment value will be printed properly. Okay, right. Okay, so here you see we are going to run this program and check it. Print data x value. Oh, okay, so we have to call it through new object, right? Okay, save it and run once again. Yes, we got it. We got the proper output. Okay, so now see the let's see the execution of this program. Okay, so execution flow of this program. Okay, okay, so here you see I'm just going to erase this. Okay, so here you see we are creating two objects. Okay, one is sm, another one is sm1. Okay, so one is sm, another one is sm1. Okay, okay, right. Okay, so if you are having the confusion on this how to create an object and classes, okay, so I created new videos on this class and object. Okay, so you can just go through this. Okay, so I give the link on the description, please go through it. Okay, so here you see SM and SM1. Okay, so now it is just going to hold the copy of this classes. Okay, so class variables. Okay, so what are the variables? Variables which is present on the classes x and y. Okay, so x and y is a static variable. Okay, so it is not going to create a separate memory spaces. It is not comes under the control of the object. Okay, so now I am going to call sm.inc. Okay, so what it is doing, it will be just going to find out the inc method where it is present. It is just going to increment the x and y value by 1. Okay, the call is from which object? Sm, right? Okay, so sm value will be incremented by 1. Okay, so it will be going to be 1. Okay, so and then y value will be going to incremented by 1. Okay, then we are going to print the static variable method, call the static variable method. Okay, so we are going to call the static variable method, the values which is present on the y is 1, right. Okay, so we are printing it. Okay, so and then after that, after finding the closing bracket, the control will be back to here. Okay, so then we are going to call sm.print data. Okay, it will be going to find out the where the print data method is present. The print data method is present on here. Okay, so it will be going to print the statement which is present on the double quote as it is, and it will be going to find out the values which is present on the y variable. Okay, so x variable, right. Okay, so the x variable is 1. So that it will be going to be print the variables values present on the x static variable is 1. Okay, so after finding the closing bracket, okay, so it will be control will be back to here. Okay, so then it will be going to be print this statement new object is called. Okay, so we are going to call the method by using the new object, that is sm.inc. Okay, so it will be going to call this as inc method. Okay, so inc method is present on here. Okay, so here you see we are incrementing x value and y value by 1. The call is from new object sm1, right. Okay, so please note this point. Okay, so sm call is from sm. Okay, so it will be increment the x value by 1. Okay, that should be followed by y value. Y value is a static variable, so that will be going to increment on and the common memory space, that is a 2. Okay, so it will be going to increment values y value by 1. Okay, so after finding the closing bracket, the control will be back to here. The call is initiated from here, right. Okay, so the control will be back to here. Then we are going to call print static variable. Okay, so print static variable method is going to be called. Okay, so in this we are going to print the values of y. Okay, the value present on y static variable is, what is the value we are present, values present on the y variable? It is 2, right. Okay, so here you see the values present on the y static variable is 2. That is the values we are having finally, that is printed. Okay, that should be followed by the values present on the x is 1. Okay, so the values present on the x is, the call is from sm1, right. Okay, so it is 1. Okay, so that it will be printed like this. Okay, so now you understand what is how a static variable. Okay, so how to access a static variable. Okay, so you have to note one thing. Okay, so non-static method can able to access the static variable as well as a non-static variable. Here you see this is a non-static method. Okay, so it accessing both static variable and y is a static variable and x is a non-static variable. It will can accept both the variables, but the static variables it will be accept only the static variable. Static method can accept only the static variable. Okay, so whereas a non-static method can accept both the things. Okay, so hope you understand what is a static method. Okay, so if you have any doubts, please put your questions on the comment section. I try to answer it. Okay, so if you like this video, please share this video with your friends and please click the subscribe button and bell button to get a further updates from this channel. Okay, so now we are going to move to another topic which is called static block. Okay, so hope you all understand that the static the constructor is going to be called initially, right. When the object is going to be created, the constructor will be going to call first, but you want to make some of the statements should be executed before the constructor, you have to use a static block. Okay, so the static block is going to be initialized when the classes get called. Okay, so when initially the class is loaded. Okay, so here you see first we are going to see the point by point what is static variable. Okay, static block, sorry. Okay, so static block is executed before the constructor. Okay, so if you are having more than one static block in your code, it is going to be executed in order from top to bottom. If you want to initialize some data after the class is loaded, when it being initialized, then you can use a static block. Okay. So, so the static blocks are run once per class is initialized. Okay. So, and main thing is static block is thread safe. Okay. So, although the class can be loaded or initialized by multiple threads. Okay. If the class has a static member that requires a complex initiation, where we can use this. So, that is the point on here. If the class having the static member that requires a complex initiation, the static blocks is a tool to use. Okay. So, this is the what about the static block. It is going to be initialized and executed before the constructor. Okay. So, here you see this is syntax: static, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and this is the block. Okay. So, now we are going to see the implementations of the static block. Now, we are going to create a static variable block. Okay. So, this is a class. Okay. So, inside this static block, I am going to create static block. So, out. Okay. Static block 1. Okay. So, I am going to create constructor. So, in this is out, I am a constructor. Okay. So, and I am going to create method void print data. Okay. So, in this I am going to print the statement I am a non-static method. Okay. So, here you say I am going to create a main method. Inside this main method, I am going to create an object of this particular classes. Okay. So, static method, static block SB equal to new static block, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, semicolon, SB dot. Okay. So, print data. Okay. So, here you see we are having the static block and we are having the constructor and we are having the print data. Okay. So, here you see the execution flow is going to start from here. Okay. From here it will be going to call the constructor, it will be get called. From this statement it will be going to call the print data, but we want to execute the static block, we are not called anywhere, but this is the because of the static block. Okay. So, it will be going to be called when the class is initially loaded, right. Okay. So, it is no need to call externally, it will be going to be automatically called when it will be classes loaded first. Okay. So, here you see we want some static variables should be initialized, some complex static variables should be initialized means. Okay. So, you can use those things inside the static block. Okay. So, it will be going to be executed first. Okay. So, then only the constructor and rest of the method will be going to be called. Okay. So, you can put it on anywhere. Okay. So, that is doesn't matter, if it find the static block it will be going to be executed first. Okay. So, here you see we are putting the static block in the last, right. Okay. But it will be printing this statement first and then that should be followed by the constructor and then that should be followed by the method only. Okay. So, if you are giving more than one static block, what will be going to happen? Okay. So, you can put this constructor in middle of this two static block, means even though the first it will be going to execute the static block from the top to bottom. Okay. Whatever the static block it is present, it will be just going to find out and printing it. Okay. So, then only it will be going to call the constructor and that should be followed by the method. Okay. So, let us see the execution flow of this program. Here you see first it is printing the static blocks. Okay. So, this blocks is executed and to better understanding I am going to give it as a 2. Okay. So, execute it once again. Here you see first it is going to be print the static block, this one first. Okay. This one is going to be printed next. Okay. So, it is going to be print from the order top to bottom. Okay. So, then it will be going to print the constructor and then it will be going to call the non-static method. Okay, so this is the why we are using static block. Okay, so it will be going to be initialized or executed before the constructor. Hope you understand the static keywords, static methods, static variables and static block. Okay, so if you like this video, please share this video with your friends and please click the subscribe button and bell button. If you have any doubts, please write your queries on the comment section. Okay, thank you.